Yeah. Jesus, you're my everything, yeah. My everything is you, Lord. Yeah. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Everybody say, how can I express my gratitude for all the many things you've done for me? Words are not enough, enough to say thank you. So Lord, you are my everything. You're my everything. How can I express my gratitude? How can I express my gratitude for all the many things you've Father, you done for me, yeah. Words are not enough to say thank you. So Lord, you are, you're my everything. See, I call you Jireh. Lord, my provider. I call you Eunice. You are my battle. I call you Rapha. Hey. You are my healer. Say, Lord, you are.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your location. Me man kram bia and then so akwaba eba yedwumedie so. Edwumade a yato ne den se BWF Solicitors Legal Hour eno so na yewo ene. Megidi se baby biara wo ho ye na se ho ye de na emeto nsa afrɛ se bra beka ye ho na edwumade a every Friday bia ye de ba eye emransem a ye bekyekire mu ene nsem a aka yen a o se ye hu bebi a ye ko nyina e wo mmere mu no ɛnɛ nso mmere no aso sɛ yɛde brɛ mo nti ka ho na frɛ wo nɔnko bi, frɛ w'adamfo bi, frɛ ɔdɔfoɔ bi sɛ mmere no aso o, mmere no aso. BWF solicitors foɔ asa aka mo ho biom ɛde good news ɛde brɛ mo ɛwɔ mmere asɛm mu nti no bra bɛka yɛn ho. ɛna ɛyɛ me anigye bebree, ɛyɛ me ahomsɛpɛ sɛ ɛyɛ ana nsɛnsɛm bi wɔ hɔ yɛde bɛto dwa a ɛnyɛ ne nyinaa na ebi a ɛfa wo ho, but nsɛm no bi nso wɔ ha wotumi ho sɛ wei deɛ ɛkɔ wo kukuo mu paa na sɛ woto ho anamo a ɛbɛdi aboa wo nti no ka ho na bɛka me ho na yɛntumi nkyerɛkyerɛ mu na yɛnsua biribi mfiri saa ɛnɛ topic a yɛde bɛba bɛto dwa ɛnkyɛ biara. Nyame adom wɔ me resource person yɛ nuabaa, yɛ sister penny, yɛ maame yɛfrɛ no lawyer Eunice Achampo ɛnɛ ɔno na yɛne ne ba bɛdi dwuma na nkyerɛkyerɛ a yɛde brɛ mu no megye di sɛ w'ani bɛgye ho papapapapapa. Bɔ mmɔden a na ka me ho ɛnɛ nso Friday Nyame adom na adom yɛn ama yɛasa ɛɛba mo akwan na menim sɛ baabi a wowɔ bia ɛmbia na wowɔ adwuma mu, ɛmbia na wowɔ efie, ɛmbia na woyɛ biribi, ɛmbia na woetu kwan, baabi biara a wowɔ biara no just spare me your next hour no na yɛmfa nsuasua adeɛ wei ɛbɛboa yɛn. Mmerɛ no kɔ nti mema me kasa ɛnkyɛ bebree ɛnkɔ anim bebree. Ɛnɛ yɛbɛbisa ayɛm biara medi kan ama lawyer Eunice de nkyia mu ohwam mu ɔdɛ mu ɔhwam papaapa ɛde amrɛ tiefoɔ na ahwɛfoɔ na afɛdeɛ sɛ update bi wɔ hɔ a ɛyɛ na home office foɔ ade kyi na ade sɛ nyinaa yɛ na ɔmo keka ɔmo ho sɛ update bi ɛni hɔ nso deɛ a na yɛde yɛn topic na abɛtu dwa na afɛdeɛ yɛakyerɛkyerɛ mu na mmom ansa na ɔbɛba no mesrɛ mu anidie mu wonya baa so a bɔ mmɔden na share program no frɛ obi share, like the page na afei nso comment no nso hia yɛn papaapa ɛyɛ na mbɛtetɛ na wɔhwɛ ne ketewa bi kɛkɛ na wɔnkɔ comment at least bisa question ka biribi ne ɛho sɛ yɛde nipa ɛna ɛyɛ adwuma no nti mesrɛ mo anidie mu mon comment na ɛmboa na afei like the page ɛna afei nso wokɔ yɛn YouTube channel no nso abɔ mmɔden na subscribe the page no sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a ɛbere bia ɛbɛbɛ bia no wobɛnya ho sɛ woabɛhwɛ bi na wotumi wo nso so woanya wo kyɛfa wo mu nti lawyer Eunice mɛsa ato nsa afrɛ ama wo good morning mema akɔ aba ɛbɛyɛ dwumadie so mesrɛ wo ho te sɛn na ɛnɛ Friday ahoɔden aba sɛ ne deɛ ɛyɛ nhyira nko a abrabɔ mu te sɛ wo ho te sɛn na mede akɔnya yi ma wo na wasa kyerɛkyerɛ tiefoɔ na ahwɛfoɔ na afei deɛ sɛ update bi wɔ hɔ a wode ato dwa de ama yɛ ɛkɔbɔkɔ deɛ
Nyame adom ma yɛ pacho na wo so
adom nko a na anɔpɛ deɛ energy no aba kama nti no itu out.
Beda ase bebree ma me enhyia yɛtiefoɔ ne ahwɛfoɔ a mohwɛ yɛn endede and that being the 25th of April yɛda Nyame ase. I mean months ne etutu kɔ saa I can't even believe that we've almost come to an end to April. Nti I know say Nyame adom okra mu nyinaa wɔ asomdwe mu. I hope say mo nso saa no nso now that the kids have also gone back to school no mo celebrate good Easter nso so nti me da Nyame ase at least and the day mo nso mo abɛka yɛn nsa. Usually as we do every week yɛma a bit of an update in regards to immigration rules no Debbie biara omo sisemu and usually say home office for EDBB but to say statement of changes it means they are making a few tweaks to the immigration rules just to make sure say inyama eda nakwemu. I know that in March of 2025, just this March gone, no, almost the new statement of changes but we're going to briefly look at one of the changes are almost there, but which comes into force and as I has already come into force. And see when it comes to EU nationals and as family members of EU nationals now almost a chrome ha UK chrome ha yin na yin say we have the EU settlement scheme. Government na aka say we EU ni and say we EU ebusuani dia you will have to apply onto the EU settlement scheme. Senya also benya asitna wo krom ha. And they have said say from the 9th of April which was 3 weeks ago, and they say when it comes to Obia, Abia, say Abia we application under this EU settlement scheme. Now, let's say for instance, or permanent residence on the old rules into previous to Appendix EU, no. Na yeah, what BBI friend immigration EA regulations 2006 and 2016. Ɛno no saa no na ɛbɔ EU any ɔmo ebusuafoɔ ho ban. But if prior to obviously this EU settlement scheme, na or permanent residence and I say residence card, no, then they are looking to see say when you are making this application, na ebia under suitability requirements, no, ebia wa wedding chrono be they've imprisoned you for a certain period of time. And now Crampo say you were given a suspended sentence and you were given maybe a fine or something in regards to the fact say you were convicted of that offense now committed. In regards to your suitability requirements under Appendix E, things that may be considered will be somebody, for instance, who has a deportation order, somebody who has been excluded from the UK because of more character and some more behavior. And now Crampo say, Abia, we transfer be a wo application be so, and that's one my false documentation be a application be so. All of those come under the suitability requirements under Appendix EU. Into if for some reason or the other, no, because of the fact say home office for no and who say you don't meet the suitability requirements, but you already have permanent residence and answer you already have residence card based on the old rules, and they have every right to refuse the application under Appendix EU, regardless of the fact say na or sa permanent residence da. It's very important to know say if for instance ebia ukita sa permanent residence on the old rules, because a lot of people still na adrian say because kita sa permanent residence no ehun here say be sa a EU settlement scheme, no, if you do have some form of permanent residence now, so yes, I EU settlement scheme na yeah kana, then you should know say it could be hindered if, for instance, your suitability requirements not under Appendix EU. And of course, those rules came into effect from the 9th of April this month here. It is very important to take note of these things because home office for no some refuse to it means say unia sitina into regardless of the permanent residence that you have, no, you would not have any means of saying say oh asitina ewo krom ha because old rules no any hobby new rules na yeah kano under Appendix EU into no ɛna ɛbɔ EU for any for ho ban into sɛ ɔmo amfa saa indefinite leave to remain no amfa ma wɔ under Appendix EU dear, then it means that it's you starting all over again because of the fact say you don't meet sa suitability requirements now or more air no. So it's very important to take note of that as well. And as we are always saying in regards to your e-visas, patcho bebree nkurɔfoɔ mbɔ ho dawuro na obi biara a ɔntumi nyɛɛ saa e-visa no na watumi ayɛ ne e-visa because ɛbɛhia paa sɛ at least by the 1st of June 2025 obi biara a ɔte UK a ɔnkita British passport biara no ɛbɛtumi akyerɛ sɛ ɔwɔ saa asetena no ɛwɔ kurom ha on their online UKVI account. Nti sɛ wonte e-visa ho deɛ a then patro bɔ mmɔden ara sɛ at least wobɛtumi ahu yɛn anaa koraa mpo sɛ wobɛtumi ebisa home office for no ɔmo
direct line a wobɛtumi afrɛ ɔmo a wobɛtumi ebisa ɔmo nsɛm ɛfa e-visa no ho, because they've made sure say nkurɔfoɔ ɛbɛte ɛho nka ansa na saa 1st of June 2025, especially nkurɔfoɔ na ɔmo te outside anaasɛ ɔmo etu kwan akyɛ no. Patro bɔ ɔmo nyinaa de ro na ɔmo nso ɔmo nte sɛnea ɔmo ba a ɛnkɔyɛ biribi foforɔ ɛwɔ airport. Nti as much as possible no, yɛn nyinaa yɛntumi ɛnyɛ by the 1st of June. Like I said previously, no, there are currently sanctions in regards to and also saa no nso. Nti sɛ woba ebi a wofiri amanɔne ɛɛba na wonkura wo e-visa nso so a, it can delay you for a long period of time. And as much as possible no, say unim obi okita indefinite, especially any biometric card so I want a passport anymore and the mamu so biometric card so crampo some more indefinite usually it will have an expiry date into so sign so they will have to do an e-visa into as much as possible no mombo a whole day runa who say deadline na your 1st June 2025. It's a major updates no ha na yame adoma na to me actually other things as well in regards to your topic no.
Yeah, that's it. Now, yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry, mommy, beside just one question per based on
Yeah.
say you you can say indefinite na there. Say you can say we independent. Sorry,
Yeah.
dependent. You national. So now nyame amadom na wanya wo indefinite na kyerɛ sɛ wabɛdi wo ho na mbia na ma divorce so nipa kɔ ne ne mbia mo ware yi a wobɛnya wo indefinite na nti na mbia biribi esi ama wa divorce so a do they still count you and I say recognize you still sɛ woyɛ you na family member na sɛ wonya wo indefinite di a na woafi you foɔ no ase ama sɛ sɛ wabɛdi wo ho a na wabɛka immigration na sɛ UK deɛ no ase ɛhɔ no nkyekyɛmu bi wɔ hɔ nom ana.
Yeah, in terms of obia na first ebia no ye EU ebuseni nti ebia na we kun anasa yere na wetumi anya indefinite no based on appendix EU and I said previously no sa immigration regulations 2016 and I said 2006 no still now because we are sitting no from the EU route no so to me yes our EU settlement scheme into because of course previously ebia na waware EU ni sisi ade won ware ni biom ebia time na wodin ya wo permanent residence no now that's so worry but sisi ama ye divorce only sa EU ni panel ne bibia biom into why ye divorce bibia ni ho biom still na because of the fact say was sitting no omode ma under the EU settlement scheme ninti so call back now yes our EU settlement scheme application no because was sitting no was derived from
From
uh,
the
yes from that EU regulations and also from that EU
uh,
spouse and as a EU national into so oh yeah sa EU settlement
now
scheme
settle.
application now sa indefinite leave to remain and yes sir and
Mm,
yeah unfortunately we indefinite and as a permanent residence now we want to
enye.
me I say as it's now dating a chrome high you would have to
Sɛ wonya
definitely
wo indefinite ne deɛ a wonya wo indefinite a ebia nipa ko no nso ni hɔ bio ma are you still under EU ɛno na mehu no wonya wo indefinite yi wayɛ wo
yes
EU
yes
settlement
yes
na
yes
wawie
yes
you are
yes
still under.
yes
Okay,
yes
yo, la Eunice,
yes
you better ase tiefoɔ ɛnea wobɛsɛ mo sɛmpa ɛyɛ a na yɛfeel sɛ o menya me indefinite na kyerɛ sɛ me kunu anaa me yere na mete me ho frɛ no mene ne ni asɛm biom menyɛ yiyu ne bio ɛna ɛne ɛka sɛ woda so wo nsa da so wɔ n'anum woyɛ dɛ bia ɔne ne gya ɔne ne hwee yɛ but yiyu no ɛda so ɛda wo so nti ɛyɛ a na yɛnhwɛ ne yie na ɛyɛ a ntɔkwa nketenkete na yɛne yɛ kunu no mu ne yɛyere no ɛko because of yiyu hwanhwan no yɛn settle na yɛnim daakye asɛm until sɛ wobɛfi ɔmo ase na wobɛkɔ akɔyɛ British citizen deɛ woda so ewo yiyu moja no da so mo na menka ne sa. All right then, etiefo na ahwefo madam ase se mo share program no na mo komonim na mo like page no nya menhira mo. Auntie Helena meda wase papa. Auntie Helena, a very special good morning to you. Baby biara wo osi Lady Manyeti and lawyer Eunice. The Lord bless you and favor you greatly. We are saying thank you for your community program. Thank you, Lord, for the beautiful day. And a beautiful the Najma Michiawo Tilly Michiawo Michicha Ubibiara Waba Humano so Nana Etua Hene Michiao Ezekiel Johnson Ezekiel no Hawadi and Ezekiel Cafe Aman no hit this or my 10. I believe you are doing great wherever you are. Eyabako nim no call into mo fanchen mamun ko baby. Just take and stay with us. And a topic I want no emo hwaman kasa. Esan say ndwumasem eba fam kakra nkrofo bebre na say just this year nkrofo afrefra omo pay dwuma na chese nkrofo dwumasem ewo fam kakra enti no ye hwe me wa no omo nso omo pese omo ho kafo ebeka omo ho na nka eja mienu tena na ede asomdwa ba say eja bible na ka se ba kofo tena ya enti na ya na mo mienu tim na mo nkeka mo ho hia eboa ema abrabo ne kɔ enim enti wo ye dan a wo hia wo ho kafo kunu o yire o mpena o sene etie bia wo hia wo ho kafo embia no no bebi ono wo no ho kafo ne mbia owo amanone enti no ope kwan bia so se oba beka ho wo UK abonten so sene be ya abrabo no mobobo ne yie mo bebo no mu mienu na makom anim na mom na eto de bia nsam kitten bi haye adwumasem nsikasem baby ayedam and any just say there are so many factors that come into place eba ne say opese wonkofa ohukafo ebeka ente ene no titiro no yebeka yesikasem because yenim say wo krom hanko ana opese okofa ohukafo ba or say we need that sike bi so anase sike bi ebata wo ho anase sika kakra bi etwentwe wo ho ansa na aban no ejina sa asikasem no so no aka say yo ampa ohukafo no beka wo ho a mo betumi akomunim ense say ohukafo no beba na odo na ni beka akoto aban so nti no aban na ayesa nhihye na abrabo no nso ayebo no nso no obi be say yembo ne sana sa abrabo no etode bia etumi hwew abrabo no owie no no so hwew owie abrabo no so hwew na che say ebi wo ho ana ho kire kakra bi wo baabi embia na adwuma wo ye sika aban de atwa to no wo de na enso wo de na no anse wo koba na wo de hwe wo ho kakra na ndwuma nso bebre wo ho a wonim se wo ye adwuma nso ni aban na twa to no embia na wo de no enso sa wo de na no anse wo ne obi ani competition nti kakra wonya na do sonson wo ho na you are okay, you are content with that na mom watwea entwe wapema empem into pese okofa ho kafo edbeka nti na yen question a yere ba betu ye maame lo Eunice nim ne se metumi akofa me ho kafo aba UK ha abra mesika sema aban atwa to o se yenya sika bi edu baabi ansa na betumi ato saa na mo no mesika sem no endu sa eye tia eye short eye small eye kuku eye fa eye chese sika no entumi endu sika na aban etwa to ho no eye 29000 you see threshold na chese ono we twa to ho won we twa no trash no e hodu na chese eda ho ontumi mpem na oye adwuma no so sika na nso sa ntime kan portokase mu a can I bring my spouse to the UK if my income is below the financial threshold of 29,000 per annum. Let's just say, afino or senka utumenya 29,000 and so unya. A lot of companies, a lot of employees, and a war between 18 and 24. Do na 18 and 24. Nanse na say eya ko 26 kakra na ebimunya 26. Na 29 ni twano eya na eye den kakra. Nenti no ye na ye behwe sa financial requirement na UK immigration and a home office etwa to say so pese okofa ho kafo ba na o se wonya sa 29,000 per annum no ene e behwele Eunice se misika enso sa sika minya enso sa na kyerɛ sɛ me deɛ mentumi nkɔfa me ho kafoɔ ɛmba anaa. Enti me first question yɛba abɛhwɛ the financial requirement a yɛwɔ ɛwɔ UK aha a yɛde di dwuma, financial requirement a yɛde di dwuma no, ɛno na yɛba abɛhwɛ ho. Nti me first question a mebisa Lawyer Eunice, aban ne say 29,000. Na 29,000 yɛnhwɛ, there are so many sources of income a wobɛnya. Ebi ne sɛ woyɛ adwuma no etua wo ka. Ebi no nso ɛyɛ a na obi tumi kyɛ wo sika. Ɔno deɛ wayɛ ne ho sɛ afe bi anaa bosom bi a ɔbɛkyɛ wo sika kakra. Woyɛ n'adamfo, woyɛ ne mpena, woyɛ ne biribi o kakra na ɔde ato wo mu. Anaasɛ wowɔ obi koraa nso a adɔyɛ nti no, wokaeɛ a ko me dɔ, na watwa 100 atom, na watwa 50 atom, na kyerɛ sɛ ɔno deɛ regular bi a ɔkyɛ wo sika. Nti ne nyinaa nso akɔyɛ wo source of what? Income anaa menka ne sɛ. Nti yɛnhwɛ sources of income a ɛtumi aban no consider sɛ wopɛ sɛ wo meet financial requirement no under the Appendix FM family route no so. Nti no yɛnhwɛ Lawyer Eunice. Ɛnɛ yɛbɛka sikasɛm.
I am that's my team. When it comes to financial requirements, dear, I believe that obi biara or sa family roots no so whether you are here in the UK and I say after na wokofa area and say ukunu no you will know say sa financial requirements no as of last year April 11th no and almost can say almost they back 29,000 from 18,600 to 29,000, more than double. I mean, it's one of those things that I say, why did they do that? But of course, now yes, they were advised by the MRI advisory team say because of skilled workers normal ban the fact say skilled workers normal ban no ebia or salary normal general and sheda and yet into increase salary levels for skilled workers, and then they thought okay, if they are increasing that of skilled workers and they say to me their factor in regards to unconform person kuna some yere bounce so. And so I know say when it comes to families, like you are saying, maybe will be pay grandpa or general a year. The gross pay, not even after tax, the gross pay before tax, no. And so sir 29,000 pounds now more no. It is more like maybe 26,000 thereabouts. And see, it's very difficult for a lot of families to meet that threshold. And see, and then we're just going to look at other sources of income that can be used in terms of us meeting the financial requirements. At least say but what's say okay, this is how I can go about it, and then we look at the way forward. In terms of question I will be saying, when it comes to the sources of income, and I say different categories of income, I'm to me, I share home office for Nadia, almost immigration rules, and almost also more guidance. But under the immigration rules, no, especially under Appendix FM, wobɛhu so many financial requirements now, they'll categorize it into certain categories senya at least wobɛhu senya wobɛtumi emit saa 29,000 gross annual salary and as a gross annual income a year. Home office no, they've termed it as minimum income for the purposes of this way application. In terms of the home office guidance and I say they are almost share and no making a decision. No, there are 5 different sources of income. And so you have employment income, and for employment income, no, there's 2 different types of employment income, or salaried income and non-salaried income for employment. And then you also have OBI, for instance, onye juma. So they have non-employment income. And see, non-employment income, ebe to me aye bibi to say rent wogye from wo dan. Ebetumi ayɛ te sɛ investments a wowɔ. Ebetumi ayɛ bibi te sɛ dividends a wonya ebi a watɔ shares bi wɔ company bi mu nti you are getting dividends from that. Ebetumi koraa mpo ayɛ to say maternity allowance because that is also considered to be a non-employment income. And so it can be different forms of other income that you haven't worked but you are receiving. Even interest, grandpa or savings no so a income on to me I share as bibia unya and as a wuji. And so those are non-employment income sources. Ɛna yɛsan nso ɛwɔ biribi te sɛ self-employment. Nti self-employment ɛyɛ obi a okita ɔno ankasa n'adwuma. Nti when it comes to obi a ebi a yɛnka ne sɛ ɔyɛ hairdresser, n'adwuma no a ɔyɛ as a hairdresser no, ɔde gye biribi kakra. Nti after that period, at least of 12 months no, ɔbɛtumi aka sɛ wagye biribi kakra. And then you also have fourthly somebody who is collecting pensions into ABA, which I juma or started say OJ occupational pension. And also our private pension. So they will consider both your occupational pension and your private pension as well. And then fifthly, omo nkrofo a omo cash savings. Nti ebia for one reason or the other, ebia wo sika no enhye da enso. But who cash savings a ubetumi aka say ebro ebia 16,000 because cash savings no so there's a threshold. It has to be 16,000 or more. Nti eno no sa no so that can be considered in terms of your application towards meeting the financial requirement. And so when we talk about sources of income, no dear, we are going to obviously break them down and see how that can be considered because maboboso and there are some that can be combined and there are some untumin combine it into at least say share in more detail na yehu dia yebetumi combine any dia yentumi combine na yetumi ehu the way forward in terms of the different categories of income na home office akase on way to me ashre in terms of sa 29,000 threshold na omo.
Yo, la Eunice, ebedas, nature said there are other means, other sources are obey to me, and the account na what to me who say a regular kwana to say example of the saloon say there. We a jumam na was saloon kakra na say to make a share obi emma baby like nanny work and sheda no sheda nya work but yeah now so no nya a bit of income kakra every month wobɛtumi aboaboa ne nyinaa no de aka wo main salary no ho na wode akɔyɛ ameti saa 29 na ɔmotwe mu deɛ Eunice ebi wɔ mu o ebi wɔ mu ankasa ne kyerɛ sɛ saa 29 no you should be earning roughly gross na ankasa no bɛyɛ 2,500 anaasɛ 2,006 na yɛtetetete nneɛma a abɛka bɛyɛ 2,004 biribi saa na ɔsɛ ɛni na 2004 nkurɔfo bebree dwuma ɛboro saa deɛ ɛneɛ I will say that but majority ɛna ɛgye less than 2,400 no majority ɛneɛ minim paa nti no Eunice yɛbɛda ase wɔ hɔ sɛ wakyerɛ sɛ akyea nso mbu yɛ nti no there are other means a wobɛtumi ɛde aka ho anaa sika no wode bɛka ho na ɛtumi akɔ anim kakra ɛde ama wo. Enti no si yɛka sɛ afei mepɛ sɛ meyɛ saa application with my and also with the income I receive from my employment no in the last 6 months no ɛno na ɔsɛ me use and also ɔsɛ me use the whole year sika anaasɛ ɛhɔ no sɛ meyɛ saa application a ɛmbi koraa na saa last 6 months no ɛnhyɛ da ndu anaa ɛhɔ no ɛdɛn na ɔsɛ meyɛ.
Nti sɛ yɛhwɛ their home office for normal guidance no eka efa the 6 month salary. Usually under your immigration rules, no, they would state clearly under Appendix FM SE and say so provided with 6 months pay slip and it was 6 months bank statement such as Jessica no a free with for no. But when we look at their guidance specifically in India, they've categorized it such that also OJ employment sika, whether it is salaried or non-salaried. Nti usually salaried employment ɛyɛ sɛ ebi a wogye sika efiri wɔ employer, saa sika no it is at the same amount every month. So for instance, wowɔ permanent job ɛwɔ baabi nti wo adwuma no a woyɛ no ɔmo tua wo fixed amount nti ebi a sɛ ɔmo tua £2,000 a month a ɔmo tua wo saa £2,000 every month akɔsi end of the year. So you can't non-salaried employment. This could be in more 0 hour employment. So and that's in more shift juma in almost a part-time juma so can fall under this non-salaried employment income no. Into usually when we say non-salaried employment now, it means say ebia wo sika na woji at the end of every month no, it is not fixed into ebia, it changes from month to month, but at least you know say saa adwuma no is permanent into a while and hour. Into under the Home Office guidance, Omaka say you should be able to show say saa adwuma na woyɛ no wawɔ hɔ for at least 6 months before a wobɛyɛ saa application no, because someone to me yes some calculations to see will gross annual salary for the year and whether that gross no will be able to meet that 29,000 that's almost no. Into at least almost can say you have to work for one whole year, but almost can say at least so wait to me in 6 months pay slip to show say what was that eduma no for that period of 6 months there to me ashare no. And there might be cases where for instance ebia nipa kro no after na wasati eduma no on share that in for that period of time. So if you are looking at the fact say you haven't been in that employment for some time there, usually they will consider other categories of your income. And an example was the fact say ebia na wo ye juma before I will join a juma we dia omo consider wo 12 months pay slips from that previous ejuma no ansa na wo be share with ejuma we. At least so to me actually almost a 12-month period now when it's other company then they can say you can combine with previous employment with this current employment say to me na at least calculate say will gross pay ɛbɛyɛ saa 29,000 na ɔmo hwehwɛ na ɔmo ahwɛ ɛno nso. But sɛ ebia na wonyɛ adwuma koraa ɛna afei na wahyɛ aseɛ sɛ woyɛ adwuma deɛ a, and the expectation ɛyɛ sɛ you'll be able to work with the company for at least 6 months ansa na wode application no ɛbɛtum. It is very important because obviously there are different ways that they can categorize it, but as much as possible no omo pese wotumi kyerɛ sɛ wo ne company no ayɛ adwuma for that 6 month period in order to calculate say wobɛtumi emit saa 29,000 na omo ɛhwehwɛ. That is that in terms of salaried and I say non-salaried employment because of course obi a okita fixed rate there. So or the 2,000 a year, say it is 24,000 on meets our requirements, But say non-salaried na to say nipa chrono part-time ejuma be a 1 or 2 different jobs na or combining the 2 or 3 different jobs from the different employers there. Be a almost yes our calculation na obetumi emit 29,000 year gross annual salary na omo no into of course when you speak to a lawyer and say person yes application na lawyer no ebehu senya omo beye sa calculation also amount.
Okay. Wow. And yeah, senior wo kan on Eunice. Yeah, memfa ne say wo kan non salaried employment no. And
Yes.
amadwena ko ba self-employed for MBA na we self-employed. Na afei nso no wo yɛ employee nso wɔ baabi. Enti eba ne saa na wobetumi de wo self-employed sika na wonya no. Wobetumi de no nso aka wo employed we no salary no wobetumi de aka ho. Na on say self-employed na to de bi a nkrofo omo ngi fixed rate. Na omo ngi sika na ebi mo no akɔgye cash. Ebi wa na like choppy but wobetumi de ne nyinaa aka ho saa ma na ayeyi ana pacho.
Okay, so let's look at self-employment income. Until let's say ebia miankasa no me a security officer will baby. Me
Mm.
j me income every ebia company na me say minimum a security no.
Mm.
Nti no sa no say me clocking in say ebia me 10 hours this
Ah,
week. Me 50 hours this week. Answer no wait to America because it depends on the number of hours na my no. Answer
that's
no wait to America.
mm,
So obisa no or you're self-employed. And usually with self-employment, no, there are requirements in terms of documentation. I'm here to show say empower your self-employed. In the
mm,
first of all, be our self-employed BR has to register with HMRC or
that's
mobile or UTR number. And then you also have to do your self-assessment. Into most times obi anim say so no kasa na ɛyɛ self-assessments there. It is from the 6th of April to the 5th of April for each year.
mm,
And the deadline, the last deadline to do it will be the 31st of January. Ebimu yɛ no June, ebimu so yɛ no in January. But as much as possible, no, the deadline no is 31st January. So we previous year self-assessment no into let's say ebia yabewura 2025. Well, self-assessment no for 2023, 2024 no will have to be filed latest by 31st of January 2025. In no Sano, because you have filed that himself when your self-assessment are extra or income and any tax are obviously when it comes to self-assessment so there's a certain threshold that you have to be able to meet answer normal tax so but almost share with self-assessment almost share the fact say na say with your tax into which you with tax or account statement from our accountants a big business into uh
mm,
as much as we are talking about a security officer one casa our own business until you have to file an accountant's report and answer bisa and because you're also collecting VAT, you're also stressed while register to take VAT as well.
mm,
Into let's give the example again of me a security officer, I'm a file me tax. Me a security officer, but me sound so juma emma ebia Tesco into me a supervisor and as me a manager at Tesco. I am employed by them on a specific basis. Wohwɛ home office guidance na
mhm,
obi a ɔyɛ adwuma wɔ Tesco anaasɛ obi a ɔreyɛ adwuma whether salaried or non-salaried no
mhm,
ɔntumi ncombine ne sika no a onya from self-employment no to sika no a onya from salaried or non-salaried employment.
mhm,
Unfortunately, they cannot combine it. Almost share self-employment as a stand-alone
mm,
category. Into so also you're self-employed there, then
mm,
they are considering your income for that 12-month period. Into they expect say you will be able to show the income you have received over that 12-month period. And
mm,
so that 12-month period no extra say will gross income now we are you know is at 29,000 pounds now or more no
mhm,
into most times all your self-assessments are you know the income you received the profits that you have and all of that into at least no income now when you know it has to show say at least to me emit is at 29,000 pounds now or more no it
mm,
cannot be combined with ebia salaried employment na wo no and I say investments, cash savings, and bibisan, it cannot be combined whatsoever. It is a standalone on itself. In see, so also you're self-employed there, and you should be able to meet it outright with just for self-employed income now.
Oh, so na so mo ya ni saa nso a enye fine o because me ye adwuma wɔ Tesco. Mbia na me ye 20 hours ana hours omo me ye wɔ hɔ no. Sika no enoso nti me anso mo self employed kakra but I don't do much e wɔ self employed. Mbia adwuma a me ye ne ade ade no. Me annual income self employed mbi kra na ye be 12,000 na 15,000. Nti eno saa no na kyerɛ sɛ I can't combine the two. Saa na home office yi ka no.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
combine
yeah.
self-employed any oh, ɔmo yɛ saa. So but nti sɛ me combine self-employed no. Memfa ne sɛ wei no, can I combine you can say the word I'm looking for no. Edwuma like ɛno ɛnyɛ employment edwuma.
Okay.
Non-employment edwuma. Ɛnyɛ edwuma but mbia meka non-employment na nkurɔfoɔ nyɛ sika every one or
Yeah.
two places a ɛnhyɛ da ɛnyɛ edwuma. Ɛno nso Eunice.
Yes, nti to say senya wo ka no non-employment no me di kind my examples a bit to me aye juma me say juma meant maternity pay a
Okay.
OJ in terms of the fact that wow into wo fie and maternity allowance na OJ no is not obviously much but it can also be seen as non-employment income
Uh-huh.
ebi si obi ebi a watɔ ne dan ɔde ma rent na
Okay.
ɔgye efiri ɛdan no mu ɛyɛ
Ah,
non-employment income
okay.
anaasɛ ebi a watotɔ shares anaasɛ wayɛ investments bi
Oh,
ɛwɔ
interest.
company bi mu yes nti
Mm,
that one you are getting dividends from saa
mhm.
wo investment na wayɛ no nti ɛno nso saa no nso ɛyɛ non-employment income
Wow.
anaasɛ mpo sɛ ɔwɔ maintenance grant ebi mu nya
Mm,
scholarship
kakra.
it's no loan. It's free money. It's
Mm,
a maintenance grants and answer scholarship awenya. It
mhm,
also comes under non-employment income. And I
mm,
say a bank. Most people have ISA. Interest now when you ISA also is also considered income. Into that interest now when you know and
mhm,
as the income now when you're from ISA no, it is
mm,
also considered to be non-employment
mm.
income. And so there are different examples, but I'm just giving a few of non-employment income. And
Okay.
also say, oh well, no, you can combine it with your salaried employment. And see, that's the good thing about non-employment, no. So if you have non-employment, you can show say at least for that um let's say 6 month period now, I mean 12-month period no, you are earning that amount of money into ABR because you are getting rents from property, for that 12-month period, you have been able to show, say, you are getting ABR, that amount of money, which is
Mm,
probably, let's say, £3,000 from rent house, into you will definitely be able to meet the 29,000 threshold. And I said, because you are looking at other combinations of non-employment income into apart
mhm,
from rents now no osan so ɛwɔ interest osan so ɛwɔ
mm,
other income which is not part of your employment income and
mhm,
nyinaa no they will look at it from a 12-month period. They want to see, say, as much as possible, over
mhm,
a 12-month period, So,
mhm.
ehwɛ sika na wogye na you
Mhm,
are able to show, say, over to me in your 29,000 per
mm,
annum for that um period of time, which is the 12 month now,
mm,
almost. So it's very important to show, say, so
Mm,
non-employment income there, and there you are able to show by way of your bank statements, say your
mm,
investments are most times they will bring you a monthly statement and also a yearly statement. It is
mm,
as much as possible, no. And so to me, say over that 12-month period now, all your investment and also in need almost your rent and also almost your a BB a cano efa wo dia wo you know dia, then of course the home office are ready to accept that as income a wonya outside of employment a ɔmo betumi aka say because of that income we nti yɛbɛtumi ama wo ayɛ saa application no based on the fact say wakyerɛ yɛn sɛ wobɛtumi amiti saa 29,000 threshold na yɛhwehwɛ no. It is also important to show non-employment income over a 12-month period ansa na ɔmo etumi a consider.
mm. Wow, sɛ wogye sika no anaa wobɛgye ɛno no ayɛ me nyaa kakra. Sɛ wo show all this evidence 12 months no, sɛ bi a sika no ɛbɛgu mu nti no woboaboa no ara ne baabi a all the sources no nyinaa na at the end of the year no, you might get that 29,000. Anaasɛ woba abɛgye saa investments no bi wɔ hɔ a ɛka maybe 6 months 6 months anaasɛ annually. Nti wonim sɛ at the end of the financial year investment bi a menya no, menya sika bɛyɛ 10,000 wɔ akyire anaa 2,000 anaa 3,000. Saa ɔhɔ no, I don't know if you really understand me, but
Mm, mm.
wobɛgye wahu anaasɛ wogye ne deɛ continue nsi kakra na bi wei ɛfiri ha kakra bɛtɔm fifi ha kakra bɛtɔm nti wonim sɛ ɛyɛ regular within 12 months de a yɛde bɔ mu a mɛtumi anya saa threshold no a ɛbɛ calculate to 29,000 no. Anaasɛ afei na woba abɛgye nti sɛ wode kyerɛ sɛ wowɔ saa investment sika yi anaasɛ wayɛ wei nti at the end of the financial year mɛtumi agye saa sika no. Ɔhɔ no difference bi wɔ hɔ ana?
Yes. And see, the difference is that when it comes to ABA, OBA wire investments no, Oma Kachin say, we will not give you dividends until 5 years when your investment has matured.
Yes.
Obisa no, on to me fa and no enkyerɛ because ɔbɛgye saa sika wei later on in the future ne nti ɔbɛmeet saa financial requirement. Unfortunately, that will not suffice. Nti ɛsɛ sɛ ɔmo tumi kyerɛ sɛ ebia investment na mayɛ no sisi a ɔmo tua me this amount of money every month. Nti sɛ meyɛ investment ɛna ɔmo ma me dividends of let's say £500 a month a ɛsɛ metumi kyerɛ ɛwɔ my bank statement no so say this is being paid into my accounts because of dividends na ɔmo sɛ ɔmo betua me ka no.
Mm,
Anaasɛ rent na ɔmo tua ɛto saa account wei minya £3,000 every month from rent sales na megye no. Anaasɛ minya maintenance grants ɔmo ama me saa grant no at least £5,000 into ɛwɔ my account no nti saa sika wei no wobɛhwɛ my bank account a ɛkyerɛ sɛ ɔmo de saa sika no ama me.
ama me.
And you can combine all those different non-employment income no to
Mm,
show them say ampa sɛ wohwɛ saa me income no over a 12-month period a
mm,
wobɛtumi ahu sɛ menya saa 29,000 a year no.
mm.
Yeah.
Hey, home of financial way ni deɛ ɛyɛ some way lo ayɛ ne sisi ano mehia me ho kafoɔ wotumi ho sɛ me situation nyinaa mehia me ho kafoɔ sɛ ɔba bɛka me ho na mpem bɛyɛ hye kyerɛ sɛ yɛbɛkɔ yɛnim na afei nso no adwuma a meyɛ no matwa me menni any other streams anaasɛ source of income biara bɛka apart from adwuma a meyɛ naa no nanso ɛnso 29,000. Are there any other options a mɛtumi afa so? Any option apart from nea wakeka yi me nso mehia me ho kafo me
Mm.
sika no ɛnso me adwuma a employed adwuma a meyɛ no ɛndu saa
Mm.
menni other means a ɛbɛka ho a ɛbɛtumi ɛdu saa option foforɔ bi wɔ hɔ bi mu anaa?
It's yes, we'll share your immigration rules now. Especially for Nkrofua, let's say to me emiti your financial requirements of 29,000. So over to me actually say we just some form of disability allowance. Into let's say ABI would carers disability allowance. And now crumple say one now disability na ayo into OJ sa um disability allowance. And as a
Mm.
OJ PIP, which is the personal independence payments. And as a OJ sa injury allowance. And as a we armed force ni and as a retired soldier and as a yeah, discharge away free and arm anymore. There's also a certain allowance on omodema san uh through no fault of theirs, they've become disabled. Into if you are taking any form of disability and as a injury payments or allowances be there, then you don't have to meet that 29,000 pounds now or more cano.
Okay.
You can show say because of sasikana oje from abino because of your injury and answer because of disability now we want into you are able to show say because of sasikana oje no ube to me emit sa maintenance requirements no.
Mm.
And then we also have abia nkrofo through no fault of theirs, they cannot meet the requirements. But ewo omo ne omo kunu anase omo yere ewo ba ana mba ewo UK chrome ha. And this was similar to the case of Lebanon 2017. And not the Supreme Court nankasa and omo share sa case no. At that time, no, na threshold no 18,600. And
Mhm.
at that time, no, na nkurɔfoɔ na wɔwɔ case no mu, because there were different families in the case, they
Mm.
could not meet that threshold, and they were seeking redress from government, no, and the government was not providing it, so they had to take the case through to JL and then all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then the
Mm.
Supreme Court gave a judgment in regards to financial requirements now almost edge home office for no edge. And Omoka said when it comes to cases where there are exceptional circumstances, yeah, and there's a home office no, to me share other ways and means that to me edi sa ho kafo abeka omo nsa. Into a bia the person might have credible or reliable sources of income home office for no able to me ashare into in such exceptional cases no dear and so home office no to me share circumstances no of nipa no na share other reliable and I say credible sources of income saa nipa no able to me are provided no ama saa nipa no ne kunu anaasɛ ne yere abɛka ne nsa because it's very dire sɛ nipa korɔ no wayɛ biara a ɔbɛtumi ayɛ sɛ ɔbɛtumi anya saa sika no na ɔntumi nya a, then you have to look at those exceptional circumstances. Nti ɛno ɛna home office foɔ no hwɛeɛ a de ɛno ɛbɛkaa yɛ immigration rules no ho. Nti
Mm.
yɛwɔ biribi a yɛfrɛ no Gen 3.1 ɛne Gen 3.2. Into Gen 3.1 ne sɛ wontumi meet saa financial minimum income requirements ne deɛ a
Mhm.
na wodwen sɛ ɛbɛbreachi wo article 8 right to family life deɛ a
Mhm.
ɛndeɛ sɛ ɔmotumi ɛhwɛ the way a ɔmotumi ɛmfa ɛhaw ɛmbrɛ wo because they say that if it will be unduly harsh for them to refuse the application ne deɛ a ɛndeɛ ɔmo bɛhwɛ wɔ exceptional circumstances nti under Gen 3.2 no the exceptional circumstances will have to be evidenced and then they would see the fact that say no refusal of application no ɛbɛyɛ detrimental to you and I say unduly harsh to you because of the fact that untumi meet that 29,000 pounds no more there, then they will go ahead and then look at those evidence for exceptional circumstances and then obviously say womiti saa requirement ne dia na ometumi ama wo ho kafo abejoin ne wo. It is some of the evidence they are looking for in terms of credible and answer reliable source of income. Number one, ebia sponsor bi anaasɛ third party bi aka sɛ oh mewɔ sika ebia me savings na mewɔ no ɛboro saa 29,000 na ɔmo hwehwɛ no nti me a meyɛ sponsor no metro letter aka ho mede me ID bɛka ho mede me bank statements ɛbɛka ho to show say mewɔ saa 29,000 no boro so nti sɛ wo kunu anaasɛ wo yere ba a me sponsor wo till the time a wo kunu anaasɛ wo yere no
Okay.
ɛbɛnya adwuma. Nti that is one source of income they can take into consideration if
Mm.
the third party is willing to provide that.
Mm.
Another credible and also reliable source of income or trust or move to me consider the fact say be a nipa krono or
Mhm.
ba or you're well and able to work into
Mhm.
or ba or be
Mm.
a must we say
Mhm.
into be a ne yere na anansa ne kunu na ɔwɔ ha no wedi kan hwehwɛ adwuma na ama no deda.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nti edwumanfoɔ no atwerɛ letter sɛ upon
Mhm.
his arrival no ɔbɛma bɛma no edwuma sei ɔmo bɛtua ne ka this amount of money which is more than the 29,000 pounds na ɔmo hwehwɛ no.
Mm.
Nti because of the fact sɛ saa edwumanfoɔ no etumi atwerɛ letter sɛ ɔmo ɛbɛma nipa korɔ no saa edwuma wei ne nti they will consider it as credible and reliable. Or it could be say the person who is here, the partner who is here, no, ebia they have savings, cash savings. Um, yeah, and cash savings same bebree. But when it comes to cash savings under your immigration rules, no, you have to have at least 16,000 and above. Until they are looking to see, say, ABS and Nipacono, back for let's say 2.5 year period there. And they will cash savings, no, so to me calculate it for that 2.5 period na nipa no ebo UK krom ha.
Mm.
Nti let's say oh 16,000, then
Mhm.
you have to multiply that 16,000, I mean divide that 16,000 by the 2.5 years na nipa kono ebeba no, and then
Mm.
multiply it by the 16,000 that you say you're going to have every year.
Mm.
Into if you are looking at the calculation very strictly, then
Mm.
it means the income that you should be getting from your savings and I said well savings na sell oh no, it will be more than 30,000 for that 2.5 year period now
Mm.
or more cano. And see it's likely that you may not be able to meet that income, but you can combine it with ABA or part-time ejuma oh yeah into ABA will part-time ejuma no unya bear 20,000, and then you have cash savings of at least um let's say give and take 16,000 na or more air cano. It means that your income will be at least 36,000 per year because you should be able to show say well cash savings now or no you've had it for at least 6 months before our year application no into say ebia woyɛ part-time adwuma now the cash savings ɛka ho a that is also considered to be reliable and credible source of
Mm.
income. Into and also no, they have to consider that and say okay because of sika wei a wogye nti yɛbɛ ma wo kunu no abɛka wo nsa ɛwɔ UK kurom ha. Nti most of the time the Home Office has to consider Gen 3.1 and Gen 3.2 as a result of Lebanon case na
Mm.
ɛbaeɛ no. And so once you are able to show say ebia because of me banner mention or no, there's no way I made to me aye juma dodoɔ say enya saa 29,000 no. Nti patcho bebree monhwɛ me situation no na montumi mboa me na me kunu mbɛka me nsa wɔ ha. Ɔba a ebia ɔbɛnya adwuma wei sei nti ɔmo bɛtua ne ka sei anaa koraa mpo sɛ me sika a menya no mesan so wɔ savings monhwɛ me savings na megye no na momma me ɛmfa me kunu anaasɛ me yere ɛmbɛnka me nsa ɛwɔ UK kurom ha. Nti they have to consider all those uh, likelihoods and as a credible or reliable sources of income unya no senya at least embeye how emma wo. Because say oba there's no way I will wait to me I hear multiple jobs are to me a day no it's not worth it, so it's better say wait to me I explain it now omo ahwe no no na omo to me ama okunu anasa oyere abaka unsa ewo krom ha.
Okay. Na kyerɛ sɛ ɛyɛ dan a anidaso wɔ hɔ. Nti no,
Yeah.
wo find yourself in any of these situations a yɛaka no, mma w'aba mu mbu. Sɛ wopɛ sɛ wo ho kafoɔ no bɛka wo ho a, to anammɔn. Go back to the video. Hwɛ alternatives na Eunice aka no nyinaa. Na hwɛ sɛ wobɛnya bi wɔ mu a, na fa to anammɔn na ɛbɛboa. Eunice, ɛbɛda ase yie sɛ woakyekyɛ mu. Sɛ sɛnea ɛteɛ biara, financial requirement no deɛ, wobɛtumi ayɛ ho biribi. Na means ne sources a woaka no nyinaa no, megye di sɛ by all means, obi bɛfind himself ɛwɔ one situation a ɛbɛtumi de aboa no. Ɔdɔfoɔ no, yɛbɛda mo nyinaa nso ase sɛ mogu so a mohwɛ na moanya mo kyɛfa ɛfiri mu. Wopɛ sɛ wɔkɔfa wo ho kafoɔ ba a, ɛyɛ ana ɛyɛ nigyesɛm sɛ ɔba bɛka wo ho, na mmom sɛ requirement na yɛhwehwɛ no wommitimiti bi a na ɛyɛ a na ɛha adwen. Na major one a ɛwɔ mu no ɛne ne ɛnɛ nea yɛadiscuss de ama mo yɛ financial requirement no ɛne yɛadiscuss no. Mo a moaba efidie ni so nyinaa nyame nhyira mo. Mede di kan ma Charles Emery. Ɔse good morning. Manye any BWF Solicitors team. Emery yɛgye wo so papaapa. Yɛnnuaba Sandra nso bɛka good morning and to you all. Nti na kyerɛ sɛ dodoɔ no a ɛwɔ ahoma no so nyinaa nkyia kɛseɛ ɛkɔma yɛn ɛfiri yɛnnuaba Sandra. Saa nso na ɔsɛe bo nso. Ɔno nso de bɛtoo hɔ sɛ nea ɔno na obisa ne question. Nti ɔsɛ ɛbo nso wo question no sɛ wotie yɛ a mebɛbisa de ama wo na lawyer Eunice abɛyi ano de ama wo. Na obisa sɛ ɔsɛ ɛbo nso bisa sɛ but ɔsɛ ɛbo nso just give me a second. Etiefo mebie telephone lines no de atum sɛ wopɛ sɛ wofrɛ anaa wopɛ sɛ wo leave message anaa sɛ wopɛ sɛ wogya voice note ɛde ma me a bɔ mmɔden a wobɛtumi agya voice note no ɛwɔ 075 966 20154. wobɛtumi agya voice note no ɛwɔ hɔnom. Mɛbɔ ɛde ama Eunice na wayi w'ano fɛfɛɛfɛ. Saa nso na wobɛtumi afrɛ ɛyɛ 0208 123 1016. wobɛtumi afrɛ sisi a na ɛno nso mɛpeke na webisa wo question. Saa nso na wobɛtumi afrɛ 073 9920 8468. ɛno nso so wobɛtumi afrɛ na obi di ka afrɛ ma mpeke wotie a wobɛtumi asa afrɛ biom na yɛato nti ɔsɛ bo nso question no mebisa de ama osi please can nkurɔfoɔ frɛ na ɛba miss call menim ne nti ɛba miss call no san frɛ biom wofrɛ yɛ a na akate nti try biom. Ɔsɛ bo nso si please can you ask lawyer can time I spent on student dependent visa and time I spend on skilled worker dependent can be combined. I can combine to obtain indefinite leave to remain if my main skilled worker obtain her independent and indefinite. Okay, indefinite.
Yes. And see, in regards to that question, unfortunately, you can only combine it if you are going on a 10-year route. So, for
Mm,
instance, maybe I had no my students. In see,
mhm,
maybe I had no my students, maybe 3 years and I said maybe 4 years. I feel that my jumping onto the dependent route as a partner of a skilled worker.
mm,
Say, oh, yet so obviously for a 10-year period, then you can combine it to say you are applying for indefinite leave to remain. But say, oh yeah, application not as a partner of a skilled worker, most of the time when you're making the application for a partner of a skilled worker, they have the 5 year period. And so usually you also have to show that you have lived in the UK continuously for that 5 year period with Sawo partner. No. So once your 5 years is over on the partner route and as a dependent, no, then you can make the application, but you cannot combine the students with the partner when you're going for partner routes indefinite. And so if you're going strictly by the partner routes and as a dependent of a skilled worker, then you have to have shown that you have been on that route for the continuous period of 5 years before you can make the application. But so person combine it, yeah, then you have to show a 10 year lawful residence before you can make the application. And so I hope say I've broken it down for him to understand.
Yes, me gidi sɛ otie obenya. Ɔdɔfo a wahoma so mema wakɔ aba ɛbɛyɛ dwumadie so mesrɛ wo ani deɛ mu wokasa firi him yɛnte wo nka.
Yeah, ma me kasa finland ya but na mo te say ma.
Adom nko a yɛ ho yɛ.
Good. We the question yetia wa me nua ba na so fo okuno ba.
Okay.
But we full time and on kwala me no.
Okay.
But the problem here is ni juma no as me hwe the PCC no as annually 26,000.
Okay.
But when you support a government, you try the come on now you try we have chat care identity. So chat care na bumudia a bit more than that. When you say no bit we no kawana. And I see suffice no say na akwa increase say na akwa ukofa sanka wo fu kuna ba application fee na tuma say I so much more na.
Yo, Eunice.
But in regards to income sources, no, unfortunately, benefits which do not relate to disability and as an injury, no, will not be considered. Into general public funds to say ABA, Nipakrono edge child benefits and our child tax credit and as a universal credit, no, and no dear almost who no as source of income. Into unfortunately, no, she will not be able to rely on that as a source of income. But when it comes to the fact, say, oh yeah, Juma, the fact that she's able to say, ne Juma no Emma ne 26,000, but because of Nimbanensi, on to mean koye more hours. And no will come under the exceptional circumstances na American wasem under Gen 3.1 Gen 3.2 no. Because on to me, it is a minimum income threshold of 29,000, but oye Juma, ne Juma no Emma ne 26,000 per annum. But because of Incolano, so on to me, yeah, more hours. Then they will consider that and say, okay, because we know that you have other, you have income coming from employment, and AB and Ipakono Eba Obenya Ejuma say, and I said third party be or what to me a support too. And I crampo say, because what savings and I said bibi ewo honinti, say omo to me share and no to me Emma wo kafo ebe join no workroom ha. They would definitely look at that.
Consider that. Yo. Home office had the omo dwen kwala ho nti nkwala isusu na wontumi nye more hours just to deprive their looking after no omo be consider me gidi some be consider. Odo for one ma so mpacho me ete nka o ka se free he.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Make us free Liverpool.
Okay.
And I pray the evidence Chiama on lawyer Eunice. Now my question here. Pacho me application. Na application na me no. Ma overstay me visa na me application. Na me person be busa lawyer say. Me health search as a me any application fee almost £3,000 na me no. Just in case me pia na application na anya successful. Aya almost refunded e bi ma wana say 3,000 na utia application o ma anya ntuma scan so nyina ahye.
Home office yes come and sign ba.
In regards to the health search, someone refused to almost be refunded. That's the good thing. And I kind with the previous caller also. The previous caller to be sad about health surcharge or more increase and there be health surcharge, is still £1,035 a year. In say 2.5 years no more than money per krona. I think say it's over £3,200 and in terms of health surcharge when they are making the application for them to enter. So also application fees no just last month. Then you're looking at it was just this month. Say April yeah, so just this month no mutu into so also application fees now almost say it was has been increased to 1,930 something pounds. But we all know say when it comes to your entry clearance applications because a international application will charge dollars and there will be bank charges. So just make your mind ready. So we'll be to over £2,000 100 just so that name say who was asking account soon. So you'll be paying over £5,200 in terms of just one application. Yeah.
Asɛm o mpakyɛ wo a mapik no hold on 1 second ma me why and wei ɛwɔ queue mu membɔ wei quickly.
Good morning, Mandy T. Good morning, Lawyer Eunice. Eda masene ed mapa mo Ghana community. Na minshia no no kese. We dey question the teacher. But we you matna ha over 18 years. Manya me settle status. Na but na you know baby e Ghana. Na makọ na wari before 2020. Makọ Ghana from that time almost about 5 times. And my ready. Makọ na I customary marriage. So then me before 2020. But me say me na so me dey ba. Na but requirement by and betimi ama me no my application and the EUSS family permit no document be be here on my side and on document be here on the side na but on the side no say on throw English na fit so TB test no obey ya na to be say me requirement on the side na be me side no requirement be here na problem is say before you lie and akokora if any say me chat na me chat me course no WhatsApp no na I problem but then we take it just my call from that time ba no ti and a picture be me the account no application is successful but obet me agade me kakra odaroma na anke ebebo apa
Eunice.
Yes. Also, in second indefinite under the EU settlement scheme. One kasa or your EU national. So I'm assuming say or your Ghana near no your EU ebusini and no odinya sa indefinite and answer odinya ne settled status ewo krom ha. Into say now we are Ghana ni
Samom because also a EU national na wabaha to 18 years ago.
Oh really?
Meba mpacho my confused meba.
Okay.
Good morning, Mandy T. Good morning, Lawyer Eunice. Eda masene ed mapa mo Ghana community. Na minshia no no kese. We dey question the teacher. But we you need matna ha over 18 years.
It's also a EU ni. And
Okay.
what for 18 years. When you set status.
Okay.
Before 2020.
Okay, into so your EU now, what's not Chrome have for that 18-year period and that's a 20-year period now. Of course, when it comes to EU appendix EU Nadia, almost say you have to have shown say signing panel before the specified dates. Ye na ye say specified dates no 31st December 2020. Into Abia Okofa Oba no no before 31st December 2020 and see and no way to me address and now you're from family member before that time. And I said nimpa krona waware no ube to me address ware no before 31st December 2020. Say ware no before 31st December 2020 dear. You don't have any financial requirements, there's no English language requirements, there's no accommodation requirements, there's no young kind of saying TB tuberculosis
Just a way they are cocoa cry.
yes, there's almost nothing. All you need to show is relationship, no. And see, so over to me, I just said, more etim. Yes, you talk over the phone, more WhatsApp, video calls, then of course they would consider that. But so worry after the 31st of December 2020, whether you are EU or non-EU national, dear, you definitely need to meet all those requirements, no, for financial requirements, relationship requirements, accommodation requirement, English language, any to that.
Alcohol cry because on no dear or na wakọ so wakọ Ghana 5 times so ni adi ewo nkata ho a say can say there has been some sort of mingling so dear no
Yes, yes, yes.
enti nyoma no step by step no me nua be ma o ja message we dear o be be se nkwan na aton fufuo mu ana fufuo aton nkwan very simple ne lo Eunice kai very very simple but open quick pa dia and the modern be home on be money tissue e de ama why we hia ne ma bebre bia e no abobo so no you don't need all those things but who video evidence kakra wo mo wakọ 5 times let us say uni how but modern akọ hu omo na application into sisi a opekra fa ne nkwala ne nyina aka ho na mumbra why very easy to do odofo wa ma so ye mre na ekontira odofo wa ma so pacho obey me last call e fra o say na o kasa free.
Yeah, by friend Nana, if you what?
Okay.
Imagine what?
Kafra, why?
Yes. Yeah, I say na me pese lawyer. Maybe some normal means you more kakra concerning. Me wo 2.5 years. Na pese me feel so called 5-year route. Na me pese me lawyer. Se me speak for that 5-year route no so. Me ko 2.5 million. Na say 5 years. No mo de be ma me na bo.
I think so. This question it go for bebre ewo omadrin efa ho and like you're asking say oh call 5-year route no so omo be ma 5 years straight and that's omo be ma 2.5. Unfortunately, omo ma 5 years straight. They will not give you 5 years straight away. In since oh call 5-year route no so when they say 10-year route no any 5-year route no there are two different routes it is say a kwan a wo fa so yes if I left now I for left yes if I right now I for right so na first unam left road no so dia and there sisi a waka tell say oh okay befa unsa right into because sisi a wadane wo ho a wabefa unsa right no there almost say nam so 5 years ansana Yamal indefinite leave to remain. Into I don't know, son, oh, yeah, application to switch to the 5-year router. Almost switch out to the 5-year router. Over here 2.5 no and sana wait to me I indefinite no on the 5-year route. Into start 2.5 now we on the 10-year route no. Ashe. But 2.5 me no why 5 years route no so no. Over to me no I indefinite leave to remain application.
Okay, yansu ye dashi papa. So I share program ne dear.
Ma share it.
Yo, la Eunice.
Ina minya be gina so din.
Mate. Emre ne ko na nso krofo gina so pa nti me pick last one na ye nko. But wa ma pick o call no Mr. Ye fro se na o kasa free.
Hello, the friend Joe, Kasa Free Wembley.
Okay, Joe yitio.
Pacho, say, Eunice me chiao. The question is about my sister and about UK or the visitors vista nearby like 2 years ago. But now, Nina, settled, Eunice settled into a dependence man. Almost with me for with you soon, say, dependence or show you enough. Almost 6 months, and she's gone back to give them bra or Ghana or school and in anano ATS school fees now. But still, I'm on fair way. It's a court. Unfortunately, 2 years in last month, and in anani. Emi person bita say okokota on gan chums and in an last month yana na will it endure the application no ana only din na on to me improve say or show dependency. The question no.
Oh no.
I say obiewu onye di line is wait I mean give him out there now back.
When it comes to things like this, it's unfortunate because obi a woda no so yan krata na nipa kono efrim say.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for nipa kono loss. But in terms of immigration, dear, so kokota they expect say both any EU national no will be there because they want to be able to see how credible and I said no krena a woman no den. Into they will ask both any EU national no as ebi assign now the man no now take Ghana no na ahe now they call now they will want to see the EU national. So unfortunately, even with our some of our cases, say then they will ask for you to prove the answer wamba. Obviously, if you are not able to give good reason, the answer wamba, it will go against you. And see, unfortunately, so to make a check court say with free normal evidence say ne nana no with
Just
free unfortunately just I
yeah.
mean a few weeks ago and not with free and see unfortunately this is what has happened. Looking at the courts, if the person is no longer able to show, because I'm sure say this was going to be her first 5 years. Yes. Yes, if this was going to be her first 5 years, or date snack room had unfortunately, there's nothing the courts can do. But if it was, for instance, with Tumiachre, say, or 5 years residence, and I say, or settled status, I mean, pre-settled status, which is limited leave to remain. If you are not what limited leave to remain, needed that. I feel no better settled status, then they could have made a decision probably in her favor. But say, I feel no all better limited leave to remain, and I say pre-settled, dear. Unfortunately, courts no end to me and yeshwe and buano.
Hey, then and no son, never man akufi and I said
So, but so it's like 2 years now. He was dependent on it, and the case is by when she was dependent on her. To me, argue say,
Okay.
as a some of the man because not on or your dependent. Into so cut on kufia. Ebe na amwa. Meanwhile,
So
we can
if
prove
she's able to, usually no, like I said, if she was able to show, say, if your mama no pre-settled status and as a limited leave, and as a mama no residence card did that dear, then they will be able to do something about it. Pachawati asiye. They will be able to make a decision in her favor. But wait there, afe and all badges pre-settled and as a limited leave to remain. And see, unfortunately, she might not be able to convince the court say she was already dependent because there's nothing from the EU national unless you are saying say EU national because first time no your application you refuse your court and then the EU national was able to give evidence or sign a court biome and so because of the fact that afei na maame no ewu no omo consider the evidence that was given previously and then they should look at the fact that she's now gone and so Mamen Way has been dependent on her for the past 2 years and
2
she's
years.
now yes obviously under appendix EU you can retain your rights if the EU national has passed away but wait there she hasn't been able to show dependency before in Afena or better say now she was a dependent and it puts her in a dicey situation.
I can say me ba mom na I can say there should be
Yeah.
a way but me ma na ba.
Yeah.
me
Now
don't know. Ampa
there
or
should
say
be some
oba
way.
me da se or say
Yeah.
why me da se yemre
That's
ya
what
be
we would
nti
do.
mema we
Thank
free
you
so
very
na
much.
ye de adwumade na ba wi ye bo moda na to na mo na kọ bie nyoma so yi e de ma lawyers no mo no be hu kwan on be fa so isem say no untumi nya solution ni nyina e wo 5 minutes conversation with the lawyer just go and see them me fa course be bio me nua ba lawyer ani akofio e wo honum a me invite no for the English version of our program no and to bia emma etiefo.
Yes, good morning, Lady Maniati, Lawyer Eunice, and all our viewers and listeners. Happy Friday to you all. So, the topic for today was: can I bring my spouse to the UK if my income is below the financial threshold? So, in April last year, the financial threshold was changed or increased from £18,600 to £29. And the reason why that was made is for the sake of immigration control to basically, I guess, prevent people from bringing too many spouses into the UK. So, in terms of the sources of income that you can rely on, we went through them and there are a few. So, the first one is employment. So, if the sponsor here in the UK, the spouse here in the UK is in employment, they can rely on the money that they receive from their employment. So in that case, they would be able to provide their pay slips to show how much they earn and their bank statements as well to show that the money enters into their account. And if that person also has like a letter of employment or a contract, they can rely on that as well to show that they meet the £29,000. Or even if the person has income from non-employment, they can rely on that too. So for example, if they have any type of investment or if they have money in their bank and they, for example, an ISA account, or they receive any type of shares, like they have shares, let's say, in a company and they receive dividends, they can rely on that too. Or even if the person is a owner, a landlord, and they are letting out a property to people and they receive rent, they can rely on the rent to meet the financial requirement. And then there's also self-employment. So if someone is working for themselves, they can stand on that as well. Or even if the person has cash savings, when it comes to cash savings, the person has to make sure that it's at least £16,000 or more. Or lastly, another source of income is pension. So if the spouse here in the UK no longer works, but they receive occupational pension or private pension, they can potentially rely on that. So when it comes to proving your income, normally, let's say the person here in the UK is in employment, they would have to have worked with a company for at least 6 months, so that they're able to provide 6 months worth of pay slips. However, if the person has worked with a company for less than 6 months, so let's say we're in April and the person started working with the company in January this year, in that case, the person can rely on their previous employment if they were working. But in that case, they would have to provide 12 months of pay slips for their previous employment, and then they would have to provide pay slips as well for their current employment. And we also looked at the types of sources of incomes that you can combine and which you can't combine. So when it comes to self-employment, you cannot combine that with any other source of income. So if you're self-employed, you have to basically your income for your self-employment has to be at least 29,000 so that you can bring your spouse into the UK. But if you are working, you are employed, you're an employee, in that case, even if your earnings from your job is less than 29,000, you can still combine it with money that you receive from non-employment. So, for example, as I said, if you are a landlord and you rent out property and you receive money, you can combine that with the money that you receive from employment. Or even if you are on maternity leave or you have savings, you can combine all of that with the money that you receive from your employment. So if, let's say, you are in employment and you earn 26,000 and you are able to combine it with the other sources of income and it reaches up to 29,000, then that is no problem. We then also looked at the cases in which people do not have to meet the threshold. So if you are receiving any type of disability allowances or injury allowances, you do not necessarily have to meet the £29,000. So for example, if you were in the army at some point and you obtained an injury and you receive allowances, then you don't have to meet the threshold. Or even if you have a disability and you receive personal independence payment or you receive carer's disability allowance, then you wouldn't have to meet the threshold. And lastly, if there are exceptional circumstances in your case, then the Home Office is required to basically look at other credible sources of income that you may have. And this is in accordance with a case known as Lebanon. So if in that case, let's say you have a third party available who is happy to step in the gap and say that although you do not meet the £29,000, they're happy to sponsor you or help you out with your application, or help you once your spouse is here in the UK. In that case, the Home Office might have to consider that, depending on if you're able to prove that there would be unduly harsh consequences on you if your application were to be refused, or if you can prove that if your application is refused, it would have a negative impact on your Article 8 rights to family life. So that's just a quick summary for today. I hope this helps someone. Thank you very much.
Thank you to dear sister Annie. Yɛbɛda ase papaapa. Etiefoɔ no ahwɛfoɔ ɛm sɛ ha na dwumadi yɛde bɛba awie. Eunice, ɛdɛn na wode bɛgya yɛ quick one na yɛndwane nkɔ. Nyame yɛ adom ɔkyena the community and the law na ɛbɛba so na yɛwɔ beautiful topic for you. Afei nso BWF Solicitors, like we all know, wohwehwɛ wɔn akyiri akwan a wokɔ Seven Sisters Station no hɔ ana house ɛwɔ hɔ. Wode ɔka sɛ biso obiara nam wo lɔre kwan so no nyinaa sɛ wopɛ BWF Solicitors a wɔbɛkyerɛ yɛ 214-218 Tottenham High Road ne so. Lawyer Eunice, Patrick, then now they jai.
Patrick, I believe say when it comes to Nibakono offer last no. Now or say the lady was able to make an application and they refused it, and then 6 months evidence was required again. Almost it to me provided. So it will be good to see what evidence that they have and evidence are on courts, no, because the hearing was one date no crown. But if the hearing is soon, I would like to see what evidence are on courts, no, because obviously based on the evidence that they've given to the courts will make their decision based on that. And I don't know if Omo or legal representatives, so Omo will be there, then that's fine. If they don't, then obviously that will also suffice in terms of them getting the advice from legal representative. Yes, no. In regards to topic, and then no, I know that many of you may be in that situation, and it might be that because of the situation there's no way over to me in yasa 29,000 men money in year say ban say I critical because of exceptional circumstance na woman into want to me in yasa sikana and to me ashre abwao. There will be issues like that, and I know say of course as much as possible no nkurɔfoɔ ɛbɛtumi ayɛ ho biribi na ɔmo ho kafo abɛjoin wɔn mo ɛwɔ UK kurom ha. And mo enjoy more rest of the weekend, and I hope say that's in there mo bɛsan adjoin yɛn bio.
Sa. Eunice, yɛn nso yɛda ase papaapa. Etiefoɔ aha na dwumadie no bɛma yɛn ho kwan na yɛde abɛwie. Nti no yɛbɛda mo nyinaa ase sɛ mo baa so fɛfɛɛfɛ ma na ayɛ fɛ. Ɔkyena monhwɛ yɛn anim wɔ community and the law. Until then no, nea din ne Manyeti, wofrɛ hyɛn baabi a wofrɛ Manyeti a megye so. Nyame nka yɛn ho na ɔma yɛn good, happy, beautiful weekend. Enjoy yourself. Obiara, bye-bye.
Based in London, we are a dynamic award-winning firm specializing in a range of legal services. Welcome to BWF Solicitors, a trusted and experienced law firm specializing in immigration and nationality, appeals and judicial review, dispute resolution, family and matrimonial, and other family law disputes with international context. These include matters such as private child arrangement orders, contestant and uncontested divorce, non-molestation for domestic violence, and financial remedy. Our childcare and family team appreciate the issues facing you at such a difficult time. Our advice is delivered in a confidential and sensitive manner. Meet Bernard Owusu, our esteemed senior partner, with over 32 years of experience and known for his expertise and dedication to serving our clients and the community. BWF Solicitors stands for integrity, respect, excellence, teamwork, diversity, inclusion, and service to the community. We provide tailored assistance specific to your case. At BWF Solicitors, every day is filled with dedication, creativity, and a commitment to finding the best solutions for our clients. Our team at BWF Solicitors is ready to assist you with all your legal needs. You can find us at the 4th floor, Anna House, 214 to 218 High Road, Seven Sisters, London, N15 4NP. Our main office line is 0208 493 7340, or our emergency line is 07712 761 884.